Hey guys, it's Quickie Baby and welcome back to another quick tank review. This time we're looking at the Comet. This is probably my favorite tank in the game and I'm hopefully going to show you why in this review of the tank. If you want to have an all-rounder at tier 7 with the flexibility to really carry any situation that it's put in if you handle the tank correctly, then stay tuned. I've got some gameplay coming up for you after I review the tank. And if you have no interest in the Comet, then I'll tell you exactly how to take these out effectively on the battlefield. So the Comet is sandwiched between the Cromwell and the Centurion. And to get to the Comet, you will have had to have gone through the Cromwell. And for all intents and purposes, until you get the upgraded turret in the Comet, it's basically like a Cromwell. However, you're now at tier 7 rather than tier 6, meaning that you're going to meet many more dangerous tanks than you would in the Cromwell. While your tank has got heavier, and your engine power hasn't increased at all, and your top speed limit is now 12.5 kilometers an hour lower. So you immediately would be asking, if you played the Comet stock, why would I ever want to play the Comet? And that's because one of the first things that you need to do in this tank is get this turret. The turret completely morphs the playstyle of the tank. Let me just highlight a few of the differences for you in Tank Compare. So first, let's look at the Comet using the Cromwell turret. So as we mentioned, you're slower, you've got slightly more armor, but it definitely doesn't make up for the fact that your horsepower to ton has decreased significantly. Your rate of fire is the same, your reload is the same, your accuracy is the same, your aim time is the same, and your gun depression is the same. And it turns people off a lot when they get to the Comet. And a lot of drivers think, oh god, why? And they don't bother to get the upgraded turret and that 77mm. Now we see that while your rate of fire remains the same, your alpha damage is increased by 5, meaning that your DPM has gone up. But more importantly, you are more accurate. Now this is the real point. You have 4 extra degrees of gun depression. There could be a bug in front of your tank and you can nearly aim directly down at it and take it out. And this gives you a huge amount of flexibility compared to the Cromwell. So as we touched on, this weighs 33 tons when it's fully equipped with a 650 horsepower engine. It's limited to 51.5 kilometers an hour, which is it's a really good old speed. And after you progress to the Centurion and the Centurion 7.1 and then the tier 10 tank, the FE4202, you really are going to miss that top speed limit because the tier 8, 9 and 10 vehicles are limited to 40. Now the traverse speed on the tank is 36, which is kind of underwhelming at times. What I recommend is that you try and get clutch braking on your driver to try and counter this and give yourself a little bit more flexibility to use that lovely horsepower to ton ratio. Now the armor on the Comet is thicker than the Cromwell, and let's just take a quick look in what tank viewer and how much better it is. So here's the Comet when it's been upgraded with the turret, and it definitely makes a significant difference on the tank. As you can see the difference between them, you get a large splattering of spaced armor and a massive increase from 76.2 with the regular Cromwell turret to 111 with the Comet turret. Plus you have a 2-tiered space armor here, which at its thickest point is 110. And when we look behind it, you've also got some half-decent armor at least here, and underneath it, and over to the right, with quite a small hole behind the spaced armor, as we can see here. So one of the key strengths of the Comet is the fact that your turret can actually bounce shots now. When you're using the Cromwell turret, you basically can't, and it really is one of the defining features of the tank. Now with regards to the hull armor, we can see that it is 76 on this plate up at the top and then the lower plate. This part of the hull armor is 32mm, but it is very well angled. So unless your enemies are above you, aiming down at you, it should be very well angled and they're really not going to hit it all that much. And even if they do, with the angling, it could very easily bounce. However, when we look at the side armor in the Comet, it is really bad. 32 along here. And if we hide the chassis, we can see the 43mm below the chassis. If you're shooting a Comet in the side, do take advantage of this very thin layer of armor down the side of it. And if you have the rear, you can usually penetrate with HE ammo, as it's only 32mm thick. So you want to try and angle your Comet about like this when you're engaging your enemies, hopefully keeping enough angle on your side armor to auto bounce, while giving your front hull as much opportunity to bounce as possible. One thing I will touch on the Comet is that, as you can see, there is a very prominent turret ring. If you can get a shot into here, it often jams it, which can be a real pain for the Comet driver. The cupola on top of the tank is actually 111mm thick, all the way round for the lower part, and it is 51mm thick for the upper part. So be careful when enemies are focusing on this part of your tank, but you still do have some rather thick armor to at least be pulling off some bounces. Now, as I mentioned in the garage, one of the key strengths of the Comet is the 12 degrees of gun depression. When the enemies are shooting at you like this, the armor looks very much less impressive than if you can use that 12 degrees of gun depression and really protect your armor. From here, the Comet does seem very imposing, with 111 on the front, and this 32mm midplate would be so very well angled that it would nearly be an auto bounce. And this is what you're going to have to do as a Comet driver. You're going to have to keep using your gun depression. Angle your armor upwards, or hopefully be above your enemies, and use that 12 degrees to make your armor a lot more effective than it looks on paper. Now we're going to move into one of the strengths and the weaknesses of the Comet, and that is its gun. It gets a 77mm, which has a very healthy rate of fire of 15.38 with 140 alpha damage. Now this alpha damage and this rate of fire means that you need to keep shooting your target again and again and again. A lot of people find the penetration underwhelming at 148 and only 208 even if you fire premium rounds. However, the accuracy of this tank is 0.34, which is rather good, and the aim time is 2.3. Because of this very high rate of fire, I do recommend that you use vertical stabilizers in this tank. Otherwise, you simply aren't going to be able to aim quick enough to be able to continue to shoot the enemy at that kind of rate. One thing that's very interesting about the Comet, as we can see here, is that we have damage per minute along the y-axis, and it is significantly more than the Centurion at tier 8, and it's even higher than the Centurion 7-1 at tier 9, and just that little bit higher than the Cromwell at tier 6. Now let's not forget that the penetration increases by over 50% when you step up to the Centurion. And the penetration is nearly close to double when you use that 105mm on the Centurion 7-1. Plus their alpha damage is 230 and 390 respectively, which means that you have to shoot the target a lot less. But this still doesn't mean that a good Comet driver who knows what the capabilities are of his 148mm of penetration, and the fact that he also has to put round after round after round at the target, can simply dominate its enemies at tier 7 if it's able to just penetrate those shots over and over and over again. And that's one of the key skills in the Comet that you're going to have to develop if you want to succeed in it. Just to highlight that even more, we can see the Comet here, the T20 in the middle, and the T-34-1 on the right. All tier 7 medium tanks. Now, just to compare their guns, the Comet has got by far the worst alpha damage at 140, compared to the 240 of the 90mm of the T20, and 250 of the T-34-1. The penetration is 12mm less than the T20, and 22mm less than on the T-34-1. You're also going to have to fire twice as many shots to be able to make the maximum use of your tank. However, if you're able to do this, you do 40% more DPM than the T20, and you do 33% more DPM than the T-34-1. What this means is that two Comets are nearly doing as much damage if they're able to penetrate their shots as 3 T20s. And however, that's a big if. You have to fire so much more and with lower penetration. And you get the downside of not having nearly as much APCR penetration when you need to take on, for example, those tier 9 heavy tanks. The T20 gets 243mm when it loads its premium ammunition. The Comet struggles with 208. Of course, you do have that extra flexibility with your 12 degrees of gun depression. But really, using this 77mm is an absolute challenge, and if you want to master the Comet, you're going to have to make good use of it. Now, just to finally touch on the fact that this has got 46 degrees of turret traverse and a very healthy 380 meters view range, meaning that you can do some great spotting for your team. Nevertheless, that's quite enough theory crafting. Let's take a look at some gameplay. So here we go, we're playing on Corellia. We can see the enemy have got some rather decent players in their tier 7 tanks, and this is a lovely matchup for the Comet, with there only being 4 tier 7 enemy tanks. And now when the Comet is in these kind of matchups, it really is, in my opinion, an absolute force. Its armor is all the better. that roughly 110 millimeters of armor across all of the front of the tank is really, really good against tier 5 and tier 6 tanks, especially. Less so when you start to get into those tier 8 and 9 matchups. We're going to have a pretty good role in this game. The teams are equally balanced, but the better players on the enemy team are in their top tier tanks. So Corellia, I like to press aggressively into the central hill location, as you can see here, and the speed of the Comet has allowed me to do so. We fire one at the ARL, but I don't want to get into a shooting match with a tier 6 heavy tank, which could have a 90mm gun on it with very high penetration. It's our first shot of the game. Set this Cheeto on fire. These new Japanese tanks are like tinder boxes. And that's all she wrote for the Cheeto. Looks like we set him on fire twice there. Unlucky for him. With a great rate of fire on the Comet, was able to make short work of his 600 and something HP. Now, note that going forwards, in between the shots, readjusting, but stopping in time to still be fully aimed when you make the next shot happen. Because of the excessive rate of fire of the Comet, you really need to know how long you can move in between your shots and still maintain accuracy. So we're doing absolute work to this T-43. A tier 7 medium tank. We've already done 520 damage to him before he realized where the shots were coming from. So we're making use of our turret, which is very thick in armor for this kind of tier, to absorb a lot of the damage these two tanks are firing at us. The ARL is angling his armor well, so we're going to have to aim for a weak point on top of his tank. And the T-43 is so frustrated that he's taken to firing HE ammunition at us. The T-29, who's in a platoon with his T-43, now is coming to protect his friend. And we're able to just smash through him. 354 damage in not a very long period of time. Now we can go back to dealing with his friend. So the T-43 is still firing HE ammunition at me. And the Cheeto rushes in, seeing that we've taken out quite a large number of forces there. Already having done 3,000 damage in this game to tier 6 and tier 7 tanks. We're a bit unlucky that we were unable to go through that PZSFL there. Now we're going to start to work this full health Hellcat. Bounce him once. Looks like he's using the 57mm rather than the 90mm. We ram him for 134. Track him, try and juke his shots. Have a bit of a casual ammo rack there at the end. Comet is great for that kind of situation, putting round after round after round into your enemies. Especially when they're lightly armored like the Hellcat. And you know they've basically got no chance to absorb any of that 2,100 DPM that you have. But just to touch back on that T-43 and that T-29 who are in a platoon together, we put so much pressure on that. We put so much pressure on that T-43 that it actually ended up encouraging his teammate to do something really stupid to try and defend him. He gave his flank to a Comet, and he didn't live very long to do anything about it. We were unable to pick up the top gun there. This game lasted literally 4 minutes and 11 seconds to this point, and we were able to do, let's see how much damage in the post-game stats. 4,030 damage in that very short game. We kept the gun singing, 35 shots fired, 31 hits, and 31 penetrations. And I don't believe any of those were premium rounds. So that very much shows you what you're capable of doing with that 148mm of penetration that the Comet has when you're top tier. We took 2,500 potential damage that game and still had some health left at the end of it. The T-43 got so frustrated by our turret that he ended up firing HE ammo at us. And that really lured one of the most important tanks on the enemy team, a T-29, which really probably is the best tank at tier 7 to sell his life very cheaply in an effort to help his friend. We're able to do over 4 times as much damage as the next member of our team. And that's simply what the Comet is great at. You have exceptional DPM and you have the mobility and the armor to use it. Anyway, let's move along and see when things change and you have to engage tier 9 tanks in your Comet.
Let's go.
So here we go, we're playing on Mines, an excellent map for the Comet, but not favorable matchmaking. There are 5 tier 9 tanks on the enemy team, 5 tier 8 tanks, and 5 tier 7 tanks. So the Comet you're going to see here is not slow. You can judge the kind of speed of the Comet here against a Type 64, a very fast light tank, and a T-44 in getting up the hill into position. We're able to put our first shot in, our second, a quick look to the right to see if we're about to get nailed. Unfortunately for me, I put one into the wall there. And as this is a replay from 8.9, we're unable to shoot through that box. We managed to take out the T-21. So here we're trying to shoot a 110 in the side. Now you're starting to see the limitations of that 148 millimeters of penetration. Good shot there by the 110, but we've already done 566 damage to this tier 8 heavy tank. We really should have had the kill there. We were a little unlucky not to penetrate that one. Now the replay slows down a little bit, as this IS-3, who was in a platoon with that 110, doesn't like me having made fun of his platoon mate. He's going to spend the next few minutes just trying to engage me. Now I don't want to get shot by an IS-3. If I do, I lose 33% of my hit points in one shot. And I have to shoot him 10 times to kill him. Luckily for me, they're paying attention to me, and the T-28 is able to plant one into the side of that T-28 prototype's turret. Now the IS-3 is focused on someone else. We penetrate our first shot with regular AP, bounce our second one, and now I load APCR, the premium ammunition, on the Comet. Each one of these shots is going to cost me 2,800 credits. We penetrate the first. We bounce the second, but it was quite poorly aimed in my opinion. I was quite flustered about the prospect of getting nailed by that 122mm on the IS-3. So sometimes you can have all the gun depression, but it's not worthwhile to try and keep the Comet's gun singing. Now we're looking for shots on this T-43. We won't have any. But look at the flexibility that we're able to get here. Not many tanks have the gun depression to be able to literally poke through holes such as that. So now we're moving into position, and this is Comet 101. Look at this. We've got 2 tier 9 tanks and a T-28 prototype below me. And only God knows how that last one bounced. But this is where your DPM can really come into effect. We track him there to try and hold him still. We put one more in, and I really don't want to get shot by his 120mm, so I fall back. Looking back on this replay, he fired, and I should have gone out and shot him 3 more times. I didn't. That's a misplay right there. But it's time to go for T-54. And got another bounce. Bit unlucky there. Still, let's go to town on his engine deck. So that's 269. 417, 564, and I think he's just woken up. 710. Oh yeah, that's right. There's a tier 7 medium tank above you. 867 damage to a tier 9 medium tank, just like that. Having seen the T-28 just fired, we can finish him off and try and get hunting the other tanks. Now just pausing that there for a second. There was an E-75 and a Tiger II quite badly locked down. My money would have been on the T-28, the M103, and the T-54E1 to deal with that situation. A tier 7 medium tank and a T-44, a tier 8 medium tank, were able to completely turn the engagement there and literally get them to run away, and the T-54E1 just ran headfirst into E-75. You got to see the DPM on the Comet there. Unfortunately, this artillery placed a really nice shell on us. But his rate of fire doesn't make it too painful. We're able to hit the GW Panther there twice. I think we bounced one of our shots at the end. Somebody picks up the kill. Now you see me loading premium rounds and going after this Yag Tiger. We penetrate the first. That one should have penned. Yes, it did. He's down to 155. We have to aim a little bit lower. We have to hit his lower plate. We can't hit his upper plate. Or we've left him on 16 health. And our turret absorbed a shell from a tier 9 tank destroyer there. The Su-122 44 was able to hit me though. And I must say that we just spent about 25,000 credits on premium ammunition in that last little engagement. Was it worth it? Probably. It netted us 2 kills that we otherwise wouldn't have had. And thankfully the E-75 manages to finish off the M103 just before he was able to turn his turret around, and he would have definitely finished us off there. In this replay, you really got to see Comet 101. The mobility to be able to take an aggressive position, the gun depression to make use of it and to rain fire upon your enemies from positions they wouldn't expect you to, and the DPM to absolutely decimate any tank that it can meet if given the opportunity. So let's take a quick look at the post-game stats. So as we were engaging higher tier targets there, this was quite a meaty amount of experience. 5,402 for our double. That's 1,801 base experience. We did 3,500 damage that game. We were only outgunned by a tier 9 tank destroyer, but we secured 4 kills with our 46 shots fired, of which we hit 41 and penetrated 29. We took 2,600 potential damage there, and did 1,700 spotting actually 1,700 damage upon detecting and 390 on detracking. I think we fired 10 premium rounds there. That would have cost me 28,000 credits, and take that into account when you see this number. Even with the premium rounds that we fired, we would have still made, if we take the event credits away, about 25,000 credits profit for that game. When the Comet gets into these kind of tier 9 games, it really does need to fire the premium rounds for credits, and you'll still make profit as long as you penetrate them. It allows you to even the competition up and really make use of that excellent DPM and mitigate the poor penetration of the fact that you have a 77mm at tier 7 when many other tanks have got 90mm. Anyway, let's take a look at our final gameplay on Corellia, back down to tier 7 again.
Let's get this show on the road.
So we're assaulting on Corellia, not favorable circumstances, and this is a 39%er. There are some rather respectable players on the enemy team, and less so on our team. So I decided to myself, I have to have a good role in this. We're attacking, that's not advantageous. And the matchmaker has not been very, very kind to us with regards to making the teams even statistically.
Permission to engage.
So we're going to be aggressive and try and get to D4, which in my opinion is a point of victory on this map. If you can dominate D4, you can win the game. So we spotted this KV-1S. Let's continue to put some pressure on him.
Penetration.
Put one into him. And we respot him for our friends up on the hill. The Hellcat and the Su-101 are doing some good work up there. Fortunately, that shot missed. And I'm being a bit cheeky here. I'm trying to get the kill. I'm risking some of my health to get the kill. And the magic KV-1S armor just goes, nope. Sub says hi, and the KV-1S managed to dodge about 3 shots that you shouldn't have there. Luckily for us, we're able to avoid fire, but I'm not stopping. I want to take this opportunity to advance as early as possible. Remember, in these assault games, you only have 10 minutes to win. There's no way for you to draw. The enemy team wins if you don't win. We spotted a Type 58 there, and we got him killed. The Su-152 shut him down hard. That's 2 tier 6 tanks taken out. Mostly because of my spotting, I was only able to do very little damage to that KV-1S. Now we have an Su-152. You know, I'm not interested in getting shot by an Su-152. If he's using the 152mm derp, that will shave off 2/3 of my health And at that point in time, I really thought that I needed that health to be able to carry this game. So now we're going to advance aggressively. We've left the D4 area, and we're going to make our way more towards the C5. If we can spot the people that are camping here, then you can allow your teammates up on the hill to shoot down upon them. One of the biggest one of the most important things that you can do when you're assaulting on Corellia is to get these guys spotted. If you can get these guys spotted, you stop them from making this a choke point. And equally down here, you stop them from making this a choke point. If the enemies can remain hidden and shoot up at your guys, then you're going to really struggle. By putting pressure on those tank destroyers, we stop them from putting huge amounts of pressure up on the northeast, and hopefully can allow them to advance. So now we're shooting at a tier 6 British tank destroyer. It's very heavily armored, so I decide to shoot the more squishy American medium. So we're back to shooting the tier 6 British tank. He repairs his tracks. He's of no concern really to me now. I let him go. And want to put pressure up again on these, on the 2 tank destroyers that were spotted here, but it looks like the Su-152 was taken out successfully. And so now we know there's a PZSFL and an American medium tank. But in the meantime, I've got an IS to shoot. Lovely.
Enemy armor is damaged.
We put our first shot into him.
We didn't even scratch them.
And then we go for the medium tank again, seeing that we were unable to get him. Whoa, we just missed that IS.
Enemy is hit.
We're able to hit the rear of his tank though that time. Now he's focusing on us. We take his tracks off.
We've damaged them.
He's getting absolutely murdered. One thing I'd like to notice is that you can see that the Comet, when stationary, is able to be fully aimed in between its shots. We put 1 in and we load HE ammunition. I keep 2 in, usually for stopping the enemies from capping. That HE shell penetrated this very softly armored German tank destroyer for 194, which probably allowed us to put the pressure up and take him out.
Let's roll.
This M4 takes my ammo rack out, I put it back in, and then I focus fire on this Panther. He's a very valuable target, and we have his side. So I'm going to ignore the M4 for a second, finish the Panther. But luckily for me, my teammate gave me some good fire support on the M4, and we take him out. So, wow, I did not expect this game to go so cleanly. But in true Comet fashion, let's try and see what else we can get from it. That was a bit of a bad shot there.
Critical hit.
Don't know why I'm not just shooting this Tiger in the side right now. And we're about to run out of regular ammunition. So far I haven't needed to fire AP.
Enemy is hit.
But if I'm very honest, it's not that often that you do, for all intents and purposes, 3,500 damage
Armor is hit.
with my regular ammunition. So we're reduced to firing APCR at these guys that I usually take for when I need to handle myself in tier 9 games. I wouldn't be using these rounds unless it was all that we had left in the tank. So I'm looking to see where this Su-100 is aiming. He's been nailed. I can't take a shot from him, but the KV-1S can. Kindly, the KV-1S obliges, and they both take shots at each other. We're able to come round and take him out. And now that's all left is a very lonely Tiger. In this game, wow. When I looked at assaulting on a 39%er, I didn't feel very confident. Then again, when you're in my opinion, one of the best tanks tier for tier in the game, and there aren't that many tier 7 tanks on the enemy team, I really feel that it's your advantage. So let's take a very quick look at the post-game stats. So this replay happened a week or 2 ago during that 5 times experience event that we had, and we got, I have to read this again, 13,620 experience for our 5 times. We got the high caliber and the Confederate. We managed to pick up 5 kills, but didn't quite get that top gun. That was a nearly 4 1000 damage game in the Comet, and that's pretty decent for tier 7. Especially so considering that we did 2600 spotting damage. This rewarded us with a massive 1816 base experience. Now I did not play this game flawlessly, I missed quite a few shots that I should have penetrated. If I had, this could have been closer to a 2000 experience round in the Comet, which, you know, I'm really hungering for. I want to get that 2000 base experience Comet game. We spent 36,000 credits on ammunition because we had to buy those premium rounds at the end, but we still made a profit of 27,000 credits. I was very happy with this game. It was a 39%, and we had to have a good role in the game. And really, the Comet is one of those tanks that I always feel that it's up to me. I feel like I can make the difference. And that's why I fully recommend it. And so there you have it, the Comet, one of my most loved tanks in the game. I genuinely feel that I'm able to get 65 to 70% wins when I play this tank solo. And I just adore the fact that I have the flexibility to do anything if I really put my mind to it. And importantly, that sheer brute DPM to take your targets down before they take you down. Now trust me, the Comet isn't going to be for everyone. I would say it's probably one of the more difficult tier 7 medium tanks to use. But if you can master it, then simply nothing else will compare to it. There's really no other tank in the game that does it for me tier for tier like the Comet does. And if you at one point brushed over this tank and didn't pay it attention, then I thoroughly recommend you to go back and check it out. I seem to get more mastery badges in this tank than any other. I've got 14 mastery badges in my last 70 games. And so it made it exceedingly difficult to pick the replays to show you guys. I have loads more Comet gameplay out there, both on my Twitch channel and on my YouTube channel. If you're interested in knowing more about this tank, then definitely check those videos out. I'll leave you with my final piece of advice for the Comet, and that is, use your gun depression, keep on firing, and try and find the side and the rear of juicy tanks to really put that amazing DPM to work. And you'll stand head and shoulders above all the competition. Anyway guys, I hope this review was remotely useful to you. If it was, please consider rating it down below. I'd really appreciate it. And let me know what you think about the Comet in the comments below. Do you think I'm completely wrong? Do you hate this tank? Do you think it's much worse than all the other tier 7 medium tanks? Let me know what you think. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.